All right, Robert Kiyosaki needs no introduction, net worth well over $100 million. We're going to break down why he personally invests in both gold and silver.
There's three kinds of money today that you guys got to be aware of. One is God's money, and God's money is gold and silver. So this is silver, and this is gold. The reason I brought it is most people don't know what it looks like. And then there's government money, which is fiat currency, which is the dollar, the yen, the peso, the euro, the yuan. Fake. And everybody's working hard for it. It's like eating fake food or drinking fake water. That's why people are getting sick financially, because they're working for fake money.
So he made a correlation between gold and silver as God's money, whereas paper currency is fake. What he means is gold and silver come from the earth, right? There's a long process to mine gold and silver, and there's intrinsic values to it. There's parts of lots of infrastructure uses. Everyone has a cell phone. There's silver in all cell phones. There's tons of different practical uses for both gold and silver, and it's just very valuable commodity. It's been so for a long time. Whereas paper currency is fake. What's valuable behind the currency is people's confidence in it. So basically, if we lose confidence in a paper currency, the value of that currency drops. And time again in history, this has been a complete cycle. When you go to fiat currency, 100% of the time it has failed. So generally, people end up catching up and seeing what's going on. They lose confidence in the currency and it loses all its value. So let's move on here.
This is real. This is God's money. Why did I say it's God's money? Because it was here when the earth was created. And it'll be here when we're all dead and gone. When you're saving those fake dollars, this will still be here. Or those fake ETFs or those fake stocks.
So we'll go into that more in just a minute about different type of assets and all that, but I want to move on to the next part now.
The purpose of the central bank or the Fed or all, the Japanese the Bank of Japan, or the European Central Bank.
He's basically just talking about all the central banks. And a central bank is like the Federal Reserve. By the way, if you didn't know, the Federal Reserve is not a part of the government. It's actually a private organization that made their name purposely to sound like a part of the government, but they work closely with the government because it's a hand-in-hand process, right? One gets benefited as the other gets benefited. As the Fed prints money, they get to bail out banks and they get to bail out politicians and they get to tax people secretly through inflation. So it works for the politicians, it works for Congress, it works for the banks, of course the central bank, because they're profiting in the whole process.
Pump out fake money. The purpose of central banks like the Fed is to protect the banks, not you. They're a criminal operation as far as I'm concerned.
So the reason why major banks get bailed out is because they're not going to let the large banks fail. Because if the large banks fail, that has people lose confidence in the dollar. If people lose confidence in the dollar, it loses value and the system collapses. So that's why the Federal Reserve will come in and bail out the big banks. They just get them all this money. That way people can keep paying their interest payments and the banks keep profiting.
You're going to find that most of my talks is about the Fed. So I would recommend you guys buy this stuff. Don't save money. Don't save government money, because they're corrupt as hell, as you know. Save God's money. This corona crisis,
Now, before he goes into this, I want to say, I have a large amount of money in gold and silver, but I do still go into other assets. Like I do still have paper currency type assets like a 401k and all that. Now, Robert, from when he says he doesn't have any of that or he has very little of it, I'm a little more conservative. I like to split my assets up, so I still do have a decent amount of paper currency and assets in paper currency. But for sure, I have a lot of money in gold and silver as well.
Call it, it's a smokescreen for something that's been going on for years. And when I was your age, I was in Vietnam and I was flying for the Marine Corps. When my rich dad sent me a letter saying, "Watch out, the world's going to change," and the world changed because President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard on August 15th, 1971.
So he's talking about when Bretton Woods was ended in 1971, August 15th. And that's basically the gold standards when gold and silver are like backing the dollar, right? So when that happened, the dollar was now backed by nothing, what he's talking about, right? So I just want to make sure it's clear what he's about to say. We were backed by gold in some type of way before 1971. When that happened, we were completely not backed by anything, which gives them permission pretty much to print as much currency as they want because there doesn't need to be anything backing it. When gold and silver back a currency, well, that controls things, right? That the government can't just go out and print as much money as they want because there has to be a certain amount backing it. And this is what he's about to go into now.
But back then in the 70s, being on an aircraft carrier, I didn't get that letter for like 6 months. That's how long it took to get to me. Now you guys go ding, ding, and you're there. I mean, the world is really no world at all. But he warned me that the world would change, and I didn't really understand it at the time. And but that's when my curiosity about gold and money and all this really changed. So today, when I look at the Corona crisis, but more the financial crisis, it's really, really horrifying because the financial crisis started back in 1971.
So I want to show you that he's correct with this. He said, there's a major financial crisis right now, but actually it started in 1971 when we were taken off the gold standard. And I want to show you a little chart here of our national debt. So if we go to our national debt, we virtually had no debt up until around this time frame right here, which is 1971. And you notice when we were taken off the gold standard, whoa, look how quickly our debt went up. So in the last 4 years, since 2019 from 2023, we've created over $8 trillion in debt. That's a quarter of our national debt that was created since 1790. So we created a quarter of our national debt in the last 25 years in just 4 years. And as you can see from this graph, it just keeps going up faster and faster and faster.
And the reason I'm a rich man today is because, I knew something was wrong. I didn't know until 72 when I flew behind enemy lines to go buy some gold, and I didn't know what gold was. It was illegal for Americans to own gold in 1972.
So the reason he flew behind enemy lines to go get gold was because it was legal for Americans to hold gold from 1933 to 1974. It was actually illegal to have gold, besides certain pieces of jewelry and things like that.
I thought that was really strange. So my life brought me up to this moment. So I'm very happy to be talking to you because the Corona crisis, while serious, the biggest crisis is the financial crisis. And your generation, the millennials, have been screwed. I mean, big time. I mean, if you understand how money is created, money is credit and debt. That's all it is. Credit, debt, and taxes. That's what money really is.
Yes, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where the whole system is just to get debt out there because, again, the politicians and the banks all profit out of debt. They want debt because that means people are making payments on interest, right? And that means also they can tax us through the hidden tax of inflation.
But they don't teach you that in school. So today, the reason the world economy is crashing goes all the way back to 71. But what happened in 71, they could just make fake money and they can keep printing fake money. And this is the US dollar. The US can keep printing fake money for a number of years yet. Mm-hmm. And the only way they could keep the economy expanding, they had to find people stupid enough to get into debt. So when I say because the dollar is dying, I'm just not BSing you. I am a student of it. And it goes all the way back to the original, not the original, but the book I read here is called The Grudge of Giants. Grudge, gross, universal, cashless. So that's how I know the dollar is dying, the stock market is way high, and gold is high. They shouldn't be.
Not supposed to happen.
And the reason is because they're ripping us off. They're printing so much money to keep the stock market high, so mom and pop, stupid person who has a 401k or a pension, they go, I don't have to worry. I got a pension. The stock market is up.
So he doesn't like that at all. I like to diversify a little bit, and I do have my, some money in a 401k and all that. Not as much as most people, not even close to most people. But again, I see what he's saying because it makes sense. I mean, they're printing more and more money to raise the prices of the stocks, but also because, again, the more debt there is, the more they profit. The more interest payments there are out there, the more we are hiddenly taxed through inflation. So they benefit through all those things.
And meanwhile, gold is going up. The reason gold is going up is a common theme, is they're printing trillions of dollars. You cannot have both going at the same time. I hope I'm wrong, but the U.S. dollar is dead. And when it's got about 5 more years, don't get me wrong, it's still a strong currency.
He's right. The currency is still strong right now, but I don't think I agree with him. I think we have at the time he shot this, that was 2, 3 years ago. So I think we have another couple years maybe.
We'll get stronger. So will silver. So will Bitcoin. Because of this here is the school teachers, our governments, the Treasury, Wall Street, and the banking system, the Federal Reserve Bank, are ripping us off.
Absolutely are. Let's move to the next part here.
Can't see it. So we're shifting to communism right now, central control of the economy. And then there'll be an IMF bailout, International Monetary Fund. What I say in private, when the IMF steps in to save you, like it did for Greece and Brazil and all that, IMF stands for I'm fucked. That's what it means. So when the IMF steps in to save America, just say to yourself, oh, I'm fucked. That's what it means.
All right. So, although two different organizations, the IMF and World Bank, were created in unison at Bretton Woods in 1944, and they often work together. So, many people look at the IMF and the World Bank as kind of like the central banks of the world, and they're looking to create like a manipulative financial system for the entire world instead of country by country. So, in short, it's like more control or more of a central control. But there's been many questionable actions by both these organizations that could kind of merit this look. So in various African countries during the 80s and 90s, structural adjustment programs mandated by the IMF and World Bank imposed austerity measures, including cuts to public services and subsidies, which led to increased poverty and economic equality. And then the World Bank funded the construction of some dam in India, I forget what it's called, which resulted in the large-scale displacement of local communities without adequate compensation, and that led to significant human suffering. And then again, during the 70s and 80s, the World Bank provided loans to oppressive regimes known for human rights violations. Again, the World Bank has funded numerous large-scale infrastructure projects, which has been criticized for contributing to environmental degradation as well. The Asian financial crisis in the late 90s was exacerbated by the policy recommendations of the IMF, which insisted on fiscal austerity and high interest rates, deepening the economic downturn, increasing human suffering in the affected countries. Also, the World Bank funding for extractive industries has sometimes led to the exploitation and displacement of various communities without adequate consultation or compensation, such as is the case with the mining projects in various parts of Africa. So, both of these organizations are kind of really looked at with a skeptical eye, and that's what he was talking about here with the IMF. The monetary system has been blown apart so bad that a foreign government, comes in and they're going to start giving us more fake money called SDRs, special drawing rights. I don't know what they are, but they're going to give us more fake money. So that's the future. So that's why I said, won't free money destroy the USA? Answer is yes, destroy the world. So what should I do? I always say, gold, silver, God's money, Bitcoin, people's money. You want to get outside this corrupt system. Bitcoin is open source. That means the central banks can't mess with it. Gold and silver are God's money. They can try, but they can't make any more of it. So again, we saw about Bitcoin there is it's something that's, since it's open source, the government can't control it, right? So they have total control of the fiat currency, the dollar, and of course other countries do of their currencies as well. But what he's saying with Bitcoin is they can't control it. With gold and silver, they can't contain it, is probably the word he was looking for. Because again, if gold and silver especially are backed by a currency which they do not want to happen again, they can't do all this money printing that they're currently doing.
And these fake financial planners, God, they're terrible people.
So he's calling financial planners terrible people. I don't think they're terrible people. A lot of these financial planners, I think they're just not educated. But Robert's funny. He's pretty aggressive with that one. I tell you to invest in the long term in the stock market. And look at this chart here. This is the Dow. It's at an all-time high. Why would you invest in the stock market? Mm-hmm. The Fed, which is a criminal operation because they only protect the banks. The stock market is an all-time high. Would you want to get in now?
No. I mean, and that's the thing. I think that's why you were saying this. It's so important to buy right now because it's low too.
Yeah. And so look at housing. You guys always complain, I can't afford a house. Well, wait till it crashes, then you buy a house, right?
So what he's saying right here is this is with all assets, right? And there's going to be a time where I think it's going to happen soon where gold and silver are going to have a huge run, almost like they did in the 70s. I mean, gold went from like $35 an ounce to like 900 an ounce. Silver went from, I don't even know, it went more than gold. The upwards trend it went. I think it went like almost twice as high as far as returns as gold. And gold had like a 25% return. I think silver was like 40%. So even with gold and silver, I think they're going to go on this crazy run, and then when they're at their peak, you want to take some out, you want to put it in other assets. What he's describing here is a smart way to invest, and this is how Robert made his fortune. He invests when other people are scared. Right? It's a Warren Buffett type methodology here. When other people are fearful, you invest. When other people are greedy, you're very careful, right? So with stock markets being super high, with housing markets super high, these are not things you want to invest in. You want to invest in those when they crash. When everyone's scared of the housing market as it's crashing, that's when you want to invest. Same thing with stocks and everything else.
So in 2008, after it crashes, that's when I bought real estate. So right now, look at the stock market all-time high. Real estate's an all-time high. Your phony education is an all-time high. Look at medical costs at all-time high. And these phony, fake financial planners are telling you to invest for the long term when the market's at all-time high. And what blew it into the bubble was the Fed. The Fed kept printing money. It just kept blowing it in this bubble. So meanwhile, little silver, it's $15 on this chart here. It used to be as high as 50, do you know?
Yeah.
So I'm going to end it there. But basically what he's saying is he's really big on silver because look at how low it's valued, right? It was as high as $50 in the 80s. Now it's only at 15. He's saying it has some major catching up to do is the way he looks at it. And that's kind of the way the investing works, right? It's when things are super low, you invest in. When things are super high, you sell them and you go into other assets. So I think if you want to get something out of this video, yes, silver and gold, I believe, are super awesome investments, especially right now. I think they're about to go on a huge run here in the next few years. And if you're interested in that, I'm connected with all the best companies in the industry. You can go to investingingold.com/quiz and take that 30-second quiz, and we'll hook you up with a company that's very trustworthy and that we've used ourselves. And also a big point of this video, I think, and a big takeaway should be how to properly invest, right? You don't invest in things when they're super high, right? Like Bitcoin. Everyone was all about Bitcoin a couple years ago and it went up to 65 grand. Everyone was getting in, everyone's getting in. That's the time you want to sell and stay away. When everyone's talking about something, that's when you should be selling and looking at the things that are way down as far as the market goes, right? Again, right now, real estate's way up, stocks are way up. You generally probably want to stay away from those things. Gold and silver extremely undervalued right now, so that's why I'm into gold and silver right now. So understand how the markets work and don't invest when they're super high, and especially when they're at their highest, as Robert was talking about, and then sell when they're high, buy again when they're low. And that's how you make a lot of money investing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Shout out to Robert Kiyosaki, awesome guy, very knowledgeable. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next video.